I'm Becky Walsh. So going through this time of COVID, you may be a person who lives with a family and you may be a person who lives alone. And both of those two things have different challenges. If you're living alone, there can be the I am talking to myself moment. It's like, I need to get a dog or a cat. I'm talking to myself. There can be this sense of loneliness. And you can be happy in your own company and strutting around feeling really good in your own self and still feel lonely at the same time. Or you can just suddenly have loneliness kind of like creep in a day that has just been going completely fine. But you're in control when you're on your own. You can kind of go, do you know what? I really do need some human company. I'm going to go for a walk in the park and talk to people from a distance. Just even like being able to go and get a takeaway coffee and just that little social interaction can just mean the world. Just somebody smiling at you through a masked face. You can get on a Zoom call, you can reach out, you can find people. Obviously, if you have no friends or family or anything like that, that's really super tough and complex, because that level of loneliness, when you start, you see, the thing is, people don't tell you this, when you're lonely, loneliness doesn't come void without any level of some kind of anxiety and potentially depression. And depression and anxiety are mates, they seem to hang out with each other. So if you're feeling alone and lonely, then the knock-on effect can be depression, and then depression can cause anxiety. Then you feel too anxious about going out and meeting people and connecting. So that's a whole thing. And I'm not going down that rabbit hole, not particularly talking about that today. But what I'm just saying is that when you are living on your own, you have a certain amount of control, and it means that you have the control to be able to change what's going on around you. Now, when you have a partner that you're living with or a family that you're living with, well, let's just talk about kind of partners as we're heading towards Valentine's Day. And that's a really big added pressure, because you're kind of, you know, if you're in the UK and you're in lockdown, and many other places in the world are in lockdown, and France has even got a 6 o'clock curfew. Oh my God. So when you're in circumstances like that and there's somebody that you just can't escape, it makes me think of prison. Just saying. Because, you know, okay, let's not make it that bad. Let's talk about cruise ships. So I used to work on cruise ships, and on cruise ships, you share a cabin. So until I became a petty officer, I was sharing a cabin. Now, most of my roommates on ships were absolutely great. You know, stick a yellow ribbon on your door if you're busy. But most of the time it's okay. But sometimes it's like, it's not even the fact that they're in the room when they're in the room, there's the fact that they can come in the room at any point in time. And if you've ever lived on a ship, those rooms are tiny and you've got a bunk bed. So you're literally in each other's energy. And I've heard this said when it comes to prisons as well as ships, but one of the coping strategies that I used on ships was to really get inside of my own head, was to kind of block out the fact that somebody else was there and indulge in things that kind of work for me. Now, this isn't always possible. Like if you're living in a home that's kind of like open plan, you know, you get it and it just feels great. You know, there's the kitchen that goes into the living room, but the only rooms that are separate is the bedroom. And if you're sharing that bedroom with somebody else, it's the toilet then, isn't it? Because there's not really anywhere that you can kind of go. And especially because it's freezing. Like the first lockdown, you could have just gone for a long and lovely walk on your own. But nowadays it's kind of like you have to freeze like what is it? Brass balls off a monkey. Yeah, something to do with cannons. Anyway, you know, it's that kind of freezing sort of feeling. You can't go out. So then you feel very trapped and stuck with somebody. So headphones, music, reading books, doing stuff that's kind of separate but together, so that you can just find a space within yourself. And there is a way, in the same way that when you're driving a car, you kind of go, oh, I kind of really didn't notice the journey, because you've gone into sort of almost like a trance state when you're driving. It's the same thing can actually happen when you're at home. You can put yourself into a kind of like a trance state where you can go into your own thoughts, into your own world, into your own feelings, and use your imagination. So if you're finding yourself getting tetchy, stressed, or hating yourself because you're becoming snappy and irritable with your partner or somebody else, or even worse, When someone's becoming snappy and irritable with you and you can't escape them, this is where we start to look at a mental abuse, because it does become abusive. So first of all, what is their responsibility to this? Because we always look at what the victim needs to do, which is the wrong way around to look at it. So what can they do? What can you express to them about the fact that they need to go and, punch something, go for a run, go and find a way of getting that frustration that they're going through out on something else, so it's not coming out on you. But if you're finding yourself becoming the person that is edgy and tetchy, go out for a run, go out for a walk, do whatever you can. In the external world with an open vista is really important when you're feeling like that. Or find an open vista in a book. Find an open vista in your consciousness. Just closing your eyes and focusing on that point of your head puts you in touch with your pineal gland, which is a really great seat of your imagination and your intuition. So finding a way of being able to expand your world in your inner world will really help with that. This is a tough time that we're all going through. And, it's true that human beings crave connection. So we can understand that for people living alone, it's tough. There's no hugs. We know what effect this is going to have on mental health and all of those things about that. Social isolation, but also social toxicity, being stuck in a toxic environment. If you're on your own, you can do something about it. When you're stuck in a toxic situation, it's much harder. So find ways to be able to detox your own brain, your own emotions, your own body. And I strongly advise having a good shake. Animals do this when they get into fights, like birds flap their wings and dogs kind of shake, but literally have a good shake. Move your knees backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, like that, but standing up. And then allow all of that pressure to build, coming up through the root chakra, coming up through your body, pressure to build. And then when you're ready, just let out the biggest ha. Like how kids kind of get really frustrated, you're not giving me an ice cream and I really, really want an ice cream. And it's almost like they clench their butt cheeks and go, like that. And then, fine, walk off. So just let out a really big ha. And then pretend you're coughing, and that'll worry everybody. But yeah, just let that kind of like come out of yourself so that you're not feeling quite so pent up in your life and pent up in your spirit. You want to be able to find a way to be able to get your energy out and feel a little bit unstressed. Great. So very good. Nice to talk to you, and be well, be safe, be happy.